They said Montana winters could freeze a man's soul, but as the wind howled across the plains that December night, Cole Blackwood didn't flinch. He stood motionless, breath frosting in the moonlight as three shadows emerged from the tree line. Their horses' hooves broke through the thin crust of snow, each step a death knell in the silence. Blackwood! The lead rider's voice cut through the night. Dixon sends his regards. Cole's eyes narrowed, his scarred face hard as granite in the cold light. His hand hovered near the Colt .45 strapped to his thigh, the same weapon that had kept him alive through Gettysburg in 15 years of Montana winter since. "Dixon's dead," Cole replied, his voice a low rumble. "And you boys are trespassing." The riders spread out, hands drifting to their weapons. The tallest ones spat into the snow. "Victor Reed ain't a man who forgets a debt. Says you owe him, says to collect in blood." Cole stood perfectly still, counting heartbeats. 1, 2. "Last chance to ride away," he said quietly. 3. The night erupted in gunfire. Cole's draw was lightning, a blur of motion honed in the crucible of war. The Colt roared 3 times, each shot finding flesh. Bodies hit the frozen ground before the echo faded into the mountains. As gun smoke drifted upward to mingle with his breath, Cole Blackwood surveyed the carnage with cold eyes. "My name is Cole Blackwood," he whispered to the empty night. "I've killed 13 men, and I'm not finished yet." By morning, a storm had swept in from the northwest, nature's fury matching the violence of the night before. Cole had buried the bodies deep. Montana's earth was hard, but he'd dug graves in worse conditions. As he worked the shovel into frozen soil, he wondered how many more would come. Victor "Rattlesnake" Reed wasn't a man to surrender easily, especially not after what happened at Yellow Creek. The storm tore at his ranch for 3 days straight. When it finally passed, his barn stood half collapsed, 2 horses dead, and a dozen cattle scattered across the valley. A lesser man might have broken, but Cole had weathered worse storms, both outside and within. Dry Creek was 2 hours' ride west. Cole rarely ventured into town except for supplies, and townsfolk rarely ventured to speak to the scarred rancher with the 1,000-yard stare. They whispered about his past: Confederate deserter, Union spy, hired gun. None knew the truth, and Cole preferred it that way. The general store's bell announced his arrival. Old Tom Willis looked up from his ledger, eyes widening slightly at the rare appearance. "Need a worker?" Cole said without preamble. "Someone who can help rebuild. Got cash." Willis scratched his gray beard thoughtfully. "Storm hit everyone hard. Able hands are scarce. I pay double." The storekeeper nodded slowly. "There's an Apache woman comes in sometimes. Does washing, mending. Strong back, doesn't talk much. Name's Sierra Windwalker." Cole's jaw tightened. "Apache?" "Half. Other half's white, I reckon. Not that anyone cares to ask." Willis shrugged. "She lives out past Broken Pine Ridge. Keeps to herself. Works hard." Cole slapped silver dollars on the counter. "Tell her Blackwood Ranch, sunrise tomorrow." She arrived exactly at dawn, a small figure wrapped in a faded blue shawl against the biting cold. Cole watched her approach from the porch, rifle across his knees. Years of survival had taught him caution, especially after the night visitors. Sierra Windwalker moved with quiet purpose, her dark eyes taking in the damaged barn, the splintered corral. Her face revealed nothing, no pity, no judgment. "Mr. Blackwood," her voice was low, touched with an accent he couldn't place. "I've come about work." Cole stood towering over her. "Barn needs rebuilding. Fence needs mending. Pays fair. No questions." She nodded once, eyes meeting his without fear. "I don't ask questions. I work. Start with the corral. Tools are in the shed." She worked with surprising efficiency, hands calloused and sure. By midday, she'd accomplished more than Cole expected. He watched her from the doorway as he cleaned his rifle, noting the way she saved a portion of the bread he'd provided for lunch, wrapping it carefully in a cloth. "There's more if you're hungry," he said. Sierra shook her head. "This is enough." As dusk approached, Cole expected her to ask about lodging. The temperature was dropping fast, ice forming on the water trough. Instead, she washed her hands, gathered her shawl, and headed toward the road. "It'll be dark soon," Cole called after her. "Storm's coming." "I know my way," she replied without turning. Something about her departure bothered him. The rigid set of her shoulders, the careful way she'd saved that bread. Cole had seen that before, in the war, the look of someone carrying responsibilities beyond themselves. That night, as the wind picked up again, he made his decision. Setting traps around the perimeter, a habit from years of solitude, Cole saddled his stallion, Sergeant, and followed Sierra's tracks in the fading light. The path led through dense pine forest, twisting upward into rocky terrain no settler would choose willingly. After an hour's careful tracking, Cole spotted the flicker of firelight through the trees. He dismounted, moving silently on foot, Colt drawn. The cabin was barely standing, a ramshackle structure of salvaged wood and stone. Through a crack in the ill-fitted shutters, Cole saw her. Sierra sat by a meager fire, 4 children huddled around her. The oldest, a boy around 10, sharpened a knife with methodical strokes. A girl, perhaps 8 years old, stirred something in a pot that couldn't have held enough for all of them. 2 smaller children, a boy and girl, leaned against Sierra as she spoke in soft Apache. The crack of a twig was his only warning. Cole dropped to the ground as a bullet splintered bark where his head had been. Rolling sideways, he fired twice toward the muzzle flash. A strangled cry followed, then the thud of a body falling. Staying low, Cole circled wide, using the trees for cover. A second figure darted between pines. Tall, rifle raised. Cole's third shot caught him in the leg. The man crashed down, screaming curses. Cole approached carefully, boot pressing against the wounded man's chest. Colt aimed at his head. "Who sent you?" he demanded. The man spat blood. "Go to hell!" Cole pressed harder. "Last chance. Reed's gonna skin you alive," the man gasped. "Just like he's gonna skin that squaw and her brats once he finds them." Cole's expression didn't change as he pulled the trigger. The forest fell silent again, save for the soft crying now coming from the cabin. When he kicked open the door, Sierra stood before her children, a rusted cavalry saber in hand, eyes burning with desperate courage. "Touch them and die," she whispered. Cole holstered his weapon slowly. "Pack whatever you can carry. You've got 5 minutes." "I'm not going anywhere with you," she hissed. "There were 2 men watching your cabin. Reed's men." Cole gestured toward the darkness. "There'll be more. 5 minutes." The mention of Reed's name changed everything. Fear flickered across her face, quickly replaced by resignation. She lowered the saber. "Children," she said softly, "get your things." Dawn broke over Blackwood Ranch, painting the fresh snow with streaks of gold and blood red. Cole hadn't slept, keeping watch from the porch while Sierra and her children huddled in his spare room. The night had passed without incident, but they both knew it wouldn't last. "Why is Victor Reed hunting you?" Cole asked as Sierra emerged, her children still sleeping. She studied him, weighing her response. "I was his wife once." Cole's eyebrows rose slightly. "Reed married an Apache?" "Half Apache," she corrected, a flash of pride in her voice. "My mother was Chiricahua, my father a cavalry officer. Victor didn't care about my blood when he discovered my family's claim to Echo Canyon." "The gold fields," Sierra nodded. "The tribal council refused to sell the land. It's sacred ground where our ancestors are buried. Victor abandoned us when he couldn't get the claim transferred to his name. Her eyes hardened. Now he wants my children. Why? Under territorial law, my children have inheritance rights to Echo Canyon through my blood. If he controls them, he controls the claim. She looked toward the horizon. He'll sell them to families back east if he can't use them. Cole stood silent for a long moment. The wind shifted, bringing the scent of pine and coming snow. I've got no love for Apaches, he said finally. Lost 2 brothers in the Apache Wars. But I've got even less love for Victor Reed. He checked his Colt, sliding it back into its holster. You and your children can stay until spring. I'll need help rebuilding anyway. Sierra's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Why would you help us? Cole's scarred face revealed nothing. I've got my reasons. Most of them end with Reed in the ground. The storm struck without warning 3 days later. Cole had been reinforcing the barn when the sky turned the color of a week-old bruise. Sierra was in the house with the younger children while her oldest, Thomas, helped Cole with the repairs. Tornado weather, Cole muttered, eyeing the green-tinged clouds. Get inside, boy. Thomas hesitated, pride warring with obedience. At 10, he already carried himself like a man with responsibilities. I can help. A flash of lightning split the sky, followed instantly by a thunder crack that shook the ground. Cole grabbed the boy's shoulder, steering him toward the house. Inside, now. As they reached the porch, Cole froze. 6 riders appeared through the curtain of rain, moving fast toward the house. Even through the downpour, he recognized the lead figure. Tall, lean, with a distinctive black hat adorned with a rattlesnake band. Get your mother, Cole ordered, pushing Thomas through the door. Rifles under my bed. Go! Cole stepped off the porch into the driving rain, hand resting on his holstered Colt. The riders pulled up 30 yards away, spreading out in a half circle. Victor Reed sat his horse with the arrogant ease of a man used to intimidation, water streaming from his wide-brimmed hat. Blackwood, he called over the howling wind. Didn't expect to find you harboring stolen property. Cole didn't move. Your men trespassed. They paid the price. Reed's laugh was lost in the storm. Those children belong to me by law. The woman too, if I want her. He gestured to his men. Hand them over, and I might let you live. You want them? Cole replied evenly. Come and take them. The first gunshot came from Reed's right, a man with a disfigured face drawing fast. Cole was faster. The Colt cleared leather and fired twice. 2 of Reed's men toppled from their saddles before the others could react. The porch erupted with gunfire as Sierra appeared with a Winchester, Thomas beside her with Cole's second revolver. Reed's men scattered, returning fire from behind their horses. A bullet grazed Cole's arm as he dove for cover behind the water trough. The firefight was brief but deadly. When it ended, 4 of Reed's men lay motionless in the mud. Reed himself and 1 companion had retreated beyond rifle range, Reed's arm hanging limp and bloody. This ain't over, Blackwood, his voice carried on the wind. I've got the law in my pocket. I'll be back with papers and a badge. As they disappeared into the storm, Cole turned to find Sierra staring at him, rain mingling with tears on her face. They'll never stop coming, she whispered. Never. Cole reloaded his smoking Colt with methodical precision. Then we'll just have to stop them first. That night, as Sierra tended Cole's wounded arm, the children slept fitfully in the next room. The fire cast dancing shadows across the walls of the small ranch house, momentarily chasing away the cold. You fought in the war, Sierra said, noting the other scars that marked his torso. Cole nodded once. Union. Sharpshooter at Gettysburg. Her fingers traced the longest scar, a jagged line from shoulder to sternum. This wasn't from a bullet. Confederate cavalry officer. Saber. Cole's voice was distant, lost in memory. I shot him after. Point blank. Sierra's hand stilled. How many men have you killed, Cole Blackwood? His eyes met hers, hard as flint, yet weary beyond their years. Enough to know I don't want your children seeing more death. Yet you would kill for us. It wasn't a question. I kill for my own reasons. Cole winced as she tightened the bandage. Reed and I have unfinished business from before you came along. Sierra secured the bandage with practiced efficiency. The Yellow Creek Massacre. Cole's head snapped up. What do you know about Yellow Creek? Victor boasted when he drank, she said quietly. Said he sold rifles to both sides, settlers and Apache. Said he watched from the ridge as they slaughtered each other. Cole's jaw clenched, a muscle working beneath the skin. 15 settlers died, 30 Apache, including my sister-in-law and her children. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackling fire and howling wind. Tomorrow we ride to Helena, Cole said finally. The territorial judge needs to hear about Reed's plans for Echo Canyon. Helena sprawled beneath them like a stain on the pristine landscape, a town built on gold dreams and frontier desperation. Cole and Sierra rode side by side, her children secured on ponies between them. They had traveled hard for 2 days, taking back trails to avoid Reed's men. The courthouse stood at the center of town, its stone facade an attempt at Eastern civility in the untamed West. Cole helped Sierra dismount, his eyes scanning the street for threats. Remember, he murmured, let me do the talking. Judge Henry Wilcox was a corpulent man with small, shrewd eyes and fingers stained yellow from tobacco. He barely glanced at Sierra and her children as Cole presented their case. These accusations against Mr. Reed are serious, Mr. Blackwood, Wilcox drawled, examining papers with feigned interest. However, I have here a legal document granting Victor Reed guardianship of these children, signed by their mother during their marriage. Sierra stepped forward. I never signed such a document. Wilcox smiled coldly. Are you calling me a liar, Mrs. Reed? The courtroom doors burst open. Victor Reed strode in, arm in a sling, flanked by the town sheriff and 2 deputies. His remaining gunmen followed, hand resting on his holstered revolver. Your Honor, Reed announced with practiced charm, I've come to collect my children and press charges against this man for kidnapping, murder, and assault. Cole's hand drifted toward his Colt, stopping when the deputies leveled their rifles at his chest. Easy, Blackwood, the sheriff warned. You're already in enough trouble. Reed approached Sierra, his smile never reaching his eyes. Time to come home, dear wife. I am not your wife, Sierra hissed, and you will never touch my children. The courtroom tensed, violence hanging in the air like gunpowder smoke. Judge Wilcox cleared his throat. The law's clear. These children legally belong with their father. Sheriff, take Mr. Blackwood into custody and ensure Mrs. Reed and the children are returned to Mr. Reed's protection. That won't be necessary, Judge Wilcox. The new voice cut through the room like a cavalry saber. All heads turned to see a tall, distinguished man in an expensive Eastern suit standing in the doorway. Despite his elegant appearance, he carried himself with a soldier's bearing. Senator Thorpe, Judge Wilcox stammered, rising hastily. This is unexpected. James Thorpe, United States Senator and former Union colonel, strode into the courtroom with the confidence of a man accustomed to command. Indeed, when I heard my old friend Cole Blackwood was facing charges, I became quite interested in the proceedings. Thorpe's keen eyes fell on Reed. Particularly when I learned Victor Reed was involved. Reed's face drained of color. Senator, this is a local matter. Is it? Thorpe produced a leather portfolio. Because I have here documentation proving that you, Mr. Reed, have been selling firearms to hostile tribes while simultaneously profiting from military contracts. He turned to the judge. I also have testimony from 3 witnesses that you forged land documents in an attempt to seize Apache territory for the railroad. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Wilcox sputtered. These are serious allegations, Senator, but they don't change the custodial rights. Perhaps this will, Sierra interrupted, stepping forward with quiet dignity. I was never legally married to Victor Reed. Our ceremony was performed by his friend, not a real minister. There was no marriage license. She looked directly at Reed. He abandoned us 3 years ago. These children have never known him as a father. Reed's face contorted with rage. You lying Apache bit? Choose your next words carefully, Reed, Cole cut in, voice deadly quiet. Senator Thorpe laid a hand on Judge Wilcox's desk. I suggest you reconsider your ruling, Judge. Unless you want your own dealings with the railroad examined by a federal committee. The judge's jowls quivered with suppressed fury, but self-preservation won out. Case dismissed. The children remain with their mother. Reed's hand flashed to his gun, but Cole was faster. The Colt appeared as if by magic, aimed squarely between Reed's eyes. Give me a reason, Cole whispered. The sheriff stepped between them. That's enough. Reed, you're under arrest pending investigation of the senator's charges. As the deputies moved to take Reed into custody, he lunged forward, shoving one man aside and bolting for the door. Gunshots rang out, Reed's henchmen providing cover fire. In the chaos, Reed disappeared into the street. Find him, the sheriff bellowed. Cole turned to Sierra, checking her for injuries. Are you hurt? She shook her head, gathering her children close. We need to leave. Now! But as they stepped outside, Cole realized something was wrong. Where's Lucy? Sierra's youngest daughter, just 4 years old, was missing. Panic flooded her face as she counted her remaining children. She was right here. Lucy! A deputy approached, face grim. Ma'am, one of the witnesses saw Reed grabbing a little girl during the shooting. They rode out of town toward Broken Elk Pass. Cole checked his ammunition, face set in stone. Sierra, take the children to Senator Thorpe's house. I'm going after Reed. Sierra grabbed his arm. Not alone. She's my daughter. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. Cole nodded once. Thomas stays with the senator. We ride in 5 minutes. Broken Elk Pass cut through mountains still dusted with early snow. Its narrow trail winding past abandoned mining operations from the first gold rush. Cole and Sierra rode hard, following tracks only she could see in the fading light. There, Sierra pointed to disturbances in the dirt. He's headed for the old Widowmaker mine. The abandoned shaft entrance loomed ahead, a black maw on the mountainside. Cole dismounted, checking his Colt one final time. Stay behind me, he instructed. If shooting starts, get Lucy and run. Don't wait for me. Sierra touched the knife at her belt, an Apache blade that had belonged to her grandfather. I won't leave without you both. The mine shaft descended sharply, ancient timber supports groaning overhead. Their lantern cast grotesque shadows against the rough-hewn walls. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, each splash echoing like a gunshot. Blackwood! Reed's voice bounced through the tunnels. I know you're coming! Cole moved forward carefully, every sense alert. Let the girl go, Reed. It's me you want. Reed's laughter echoed from the darkness. Always the hero, eh, Blackwood? Just like at Gettysburg. Cole froze. What did you say? You don't recognize me? I'm hurt. Reed's voice was closer now. Of course I was wearing Confederate gray back then. Captain Victor Reed, 7th Virginia Cavalry. You put a bullet through my shoulder before I could finish cutting down your friend. Realization dawned in Cole's eyes. The officer with the rattlesnake insignia, the very same, and now I have something you want. A match flared in the darkness, illuminating Reed's face and the small figure he held. Lucy, eyes wide with terror, Reed's knife at her throat. Just like you took something from me, Sierra gasped, stepping forward. Reed pressed the blade closer to Lucy's skin. Ah, stay right there, both of you. Cole lowered his gun slightly. Let her go, Reed. This is between us. Oh, it is, Reed agreed. But I want you to suffer first. I want you to watch as I take everything from you, just like you took everything from me. His eyes glittered with madness in the lantern light. My career, my future, all gone with that bullet at Gettysburg. Cole kept his voice steady. The war's been over 15 years, Reed. Not my war. Reed's grip tightened on Lucy. Now drop your weapon, or I'll show you exactly how sharp this blade is. Cole slowly placed his Colt on the ground. Now let her go. Reed smiled. I don't think so. I think I'll keep this little bargaining chip. He backed deeper into the tunnel. Maybe I'll even raise her proper, teach her to hate Apaches like her whore mother. Sierra's voice cut through the darkness. You took everything from me once, never again. A flash of movement caught Reed's attention too late. Sierra had circled through a side passage, emerging behind him. Her Apache blade slashed across his arm, forcing him to release Lucy. The child ran to Cole as Reed howled in pain and rage. Cole lunged for his fallen Colt, but Reed was faster, kicking it away and drawing his own revolver. The mine shaft erupted in gunfire, bullets ricocheting off stone walls. Run! Cole shouted to Sierra and Lucy, diving behind an abandoned mining cart as Reed fired again. Sierra pushed Lucy toward the exit, then turned back, unwilling to leave Cole. I've been waiting for this for a long time, Blackwood, Reed called, reloading his revolver. Just you and me, one bullet each. He gestured to the unstable supports. Better make it count. This whole place is ready to collapse. Cole peered around the cart, assessing. Reed stood at the junction of two tunnels, partially protected by a wooden beam. One shot, one chance. You know what your mistake was at Gettysburg? Cole asked, buying time. You talked too much before you killed. Reed laughed. And yours was showing mercy. No, Cole replied quietly. My mistake was not finishing the job. Movement drew Reed's eye. Sierra circling behind again with her knife. He whirled, firing at the shadow. The bullet struck stone, sparking. In that instant, Cole made his move. The Colt roared once, its report deafening in the confined space. Reed staggered, surprise registering on his face as he looked down at the spreading crimson stain on his chest. His gun fired reflexively, the bullet striking an overhead support. The mine groaned, ancient timbers giving way. Dust and rock began to rain down as the shaft started collapsing. Cole! Sierra screamed, reaching for him as the tunnel between them filled with falling debris. Cole dove forward, rolling beneath a cascade of stone. He grabbed Sierra's hand, pulling her toward the exit as the mine collapsed behind them. They emerged into the fading daylight, coughing and covered in dust, Lucy crying in Sierra's arms. Behind them, the entrance sealed itself with a final shudder of earth, becoming Victor Reed's tomb. Spring came early to Montana that year. The snow retreated from the valleys, leaving behind fields of wildflowers and new green grass. Blackwood Ranch stood transformed, barn rebuilt, fences mended, cattle grazing peacefully across rolling pastures. On the porch, Cole sat cleaning his Colt, the morning sun warming his scarred face. Sierra emerged from the house, her hair loose in the spring breeze. She handed him a cup of coffee, their fingers brushing briefly. Senator Thorpe's letter came, she said, settling beside him. The territorial governor approved the protection order for Echo Canyon. No mining, no railroad. Cole nodded. Good. Your people's ancestors can rest in peace. Our people, she corrected gently. The children are as much your family now as mine. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Thomas teach his younger brother to rope a practice post. The girls gathered wildflowers near the corral, Lucy's laughter bright as the morning sun. I never thanked you, Sierra said finally, for everything. Cole's weathered hand found hers. No need. We both had ghosts to lay to rest. In the distance, riders approached. Senator Thorpe and two companions. Cole straightened, recognizing the official insignia. What is it? Sierra asked, noting his expression. Looks like the senator brought a U.S. Marshal. Cole stood, holstering his Colt, and he's carrying a badge. Sierra's eyes widened with understanding. He wants you to become a lawman. Cole looked out over the ranch, over the family he'd found when he least expected it. He thought of the 13 men he'd killed, and the peace he'd finally found on the other side of violence. There are still men like Reed out there, he said quietly. Still justice that needs doing. Sierra's hand slipped into his, strong and sure. Then we'll face them together. Cole Blackwood, former soldier, rancher, and now perhaps something more, squeezed her hand in silent agreement. The war within him had finally ended. What came next would be built not just with blood and fire, but with something far stronger. Family. As Senator Thorpe dismounted at the gate, Cole whispered words meant only for Sierra. Freedom must be protected with blood and fire, but it's preserved by what we build afterward. She smiled, the morning sun turning her eyes to amber. Then let's build something that lasts. They say the western frontier was carved by men like Cole Blackwood, men who stared into the devil's eyes without blinking. But few remember the women who stood beside them, equally fierce, equally determined. And the story of Cole, Sierra, and their stand against the Wells gang has only just begun.